Okay, so have you seen this headline this morning?
What headline is that?
Microsoft sells Xbox to Apple for $100 billion.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? April 1st, 2025. I think the gaming world officially broke today.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're diving into today. This massive story still developing. The reported acquisition of Microsoft's entire Xbox division by Apple for $100 billion.
$100 billion. That is,
A lot of money.
yeah.
But it looks like the real deal, right? We've got what seems to be a legit SEC filing late last night, an internal memo that's supposedly from Satya Nadella himself, Microsoft's CEO. And I mean, Bloomberg, The Verge, everyone's reporting on it.
So what are we trying to figure out here?
Well, I think for me, and probably for you listening, it's the why. Like, why would Microsoft even think about letting go of Xbox after all this time, after building it up, investing in all those studios, pushing Game Pass? And then who is this buyer, really? And what does it mean for the future of, well, gaming as we know it?
Right.
Like, does this change everything? Whether you're like hardcore playing every night or just interested in these big tech shakeups, this is kind of a big deal.
It's huge. I mean, $100 billion. That's, two of the biggest companies on the planet.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, video games. It's a cornerstone of modern entertainment, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, why? Why would they even consider this?
Right. So let's get into that why. Sources, and it sounds like these sources are pretty in the know, are saying that this wasn't like a sudden decision, that this idea has been, floating around Microsoft for a while now. Yeah. And it seems like the core reasoning, like what it really boils down to is long-term financial strategies.
Yeah.
Like where do they put their money to, make the most of it in this market that's constantly changing?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So despite the success of Game Pass, which has been doing really well,
Yeah.
and those huge acquisitions, like remember when they bought Bethesda
Hmm.
and then Activision Blizzard? Those were massive deals.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the profitability of the console hardware itself, the actual Xbox, is not where Microsoft wants to be in the long run.
Really? I mean, you think about Microsoft and gaming, it's like Xbox is...
It's their thing, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at Microsoft's, overall strategy, their real power, like where they're really making bank, is in cloud computing with Azure.
Yeah.
And like all that crazy growth in enterprise AI. Artificial intelligence for businesses.
Oh, right.
And some of the internal discussions that have been leaked actually point this out pretty directly. Like the returns they're seeing on Xbox consoles, the physical boxes themselves, it just doesn't compare to those profit margins in those other core businesses. Like cloud and AI.
Yeah.
Those are just totally different beasts when it comes to growth potential.
I see. So it's not really about gaming itself.
It's about where the money is, right?
Yeah.
And this guy, Daniel Ahmad, he's an industry analyst who really knows his stuff. Put it this way. He said this isn't some, desperate fire sale. Microsoft has been looking at these trends, like really analyzing them for years. And when you compare those, razor-thin margins on console hardware, like they're really not making that much on each Xbox sold to the potentially huge and recurring revenue from cloud services and AI. It's pretty obvious where their priorities are, right?
Yeah. It does kind of paint a clear picture.
And it looks like they're betting on a future where gaming is less about, that box under your TV and more about the software and services that can reach you anywhere on any screen.
So if Microsoft is looking past dedicated hardware as their main thing in gaming, who takes over? Who's going to make those boxes?
Yeah.
And that brings us to, who bought them, right?
Exactly. And initially, there were so many rumors. Like, who's it going to be?
Yeah, everyone was throwing out names.
Amazon,
Right.
with their cloud gaming ambitions. Tencent, because they're massive globally. Even Google was in the mix. They've been trying to break into gaming forever.
Right.
But then boom, the Bloomberg report drops this bomb. Apple. Apple is reportedly the one who's paying $100 billion for Xbox.
Really?
Apple. This is their first huge all-in move into high-performance gaming. It's insane. It feels like, I don't know, a tectonic shift or something.
It's a huge move for them. I mean, yeah, they have Apple Arcade, but that's a totally different thing.
Casual games,
Uh-huh.
bubble stuff.
Yeah. This would instantly make them a major player in the, the big leagues of gaming,
Yeah.
the AAA space. What's interesting to think about is how this could all work together. The reports are saying that Xbox's whole infrastructure is part of the deal. Game Pass, with its massive library, their cloud streaming tech, which is already pretty good, and importantly, all those first-party studios that make the games, That's all going to Apple, supposedly. They'll probably try to integrate it into Apple's, that ecosystem they have, which is really strong. Like, once you're in, you're in.
Yeah, Apple's really good at that.
Yeah.
And there's this statement from Tim Cook, the Apple CEO, that really drives this point home. He basically said that gaming has always been critical to Apple's identity.
Really?
Yeah, no, kind of surprising, right?
Yeah.
And that they're, really excited to bring the best gaming experiences to players everywhere by adding the talent and tech of the Xbox teams.
Sounds like they're not just buying a brand, they want the whole ecosystem.
The whole thing. Wow. Yeah. And the reports are saying that we can expect a big rebranding effort. Everything Xbox will become Apple something. Maybe they'll merge it with Apple Arcade or just expand it massively and make it this, huge gaming subscription service.
And you know what else is interesting? Apple's been making their own chips, right? Those ARM-based chips. They're super power efficient, really good for phones and stuff. But imagine if they use that tech to make a next-gen gaming experience that works across all their devices, iPhones, iPads, Macs, even Apple TV. That could be really cool.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about the big question, the one I know everyone's wondering. What happens to Game Pass and all those Xbox exclusives like Halo, Gears of War, Forza? What about those games?
Right.
Because that's a big part of the Xbox experience.
Right.
So what the reports are saying is, well, it's kind of a twist. Apple is buying the Xbox division, the hardware, the tech, and all that. But Microsoft is holding on to the publishing rights for their big franchises. Halo, Call of Duty, The Elder Scrolls, those massive games.
So they're buying the Xbox brand, but not the...
Not the games themselves, at least, not completely.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if Microsoft keeps those publishing rights, that could mean that those games, those previously Xbox exclusives, could end up on other platforms, PlayStation, Nintendo, even Apple devices.
Whoa, that would be wild.
Right. It would completely change the console wars as we know them.
Yeah. Imagine Halo on a PlayStation. It's mind-blowing.
And Game Pass. What happens to that?
Well, the reports suggest that it could become a truly universal game subscription service, almost like Netflix, but for games, available on pretty much any platform.
That's a bold move.
The one exception, though, and this is interesting, is PlayStation. It doesn't sound like Game Pass will be on PlayStation anytime soon, at least according to these reports.
So everyone but Sony.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Wow. And this actually lines up with what's in that leaked memo from Phil Spencer, the head of Microsoft Gaming. He apparently told his teams and, kind of the gaming community in general, that this isn't the end of Xbox. It's an evolution. They're changing but not going away.
Evolution.
Right. And their goal, he says, is to reach more players than ever before. And they want to do that by, basically breaking free from the limitations of hardware. So the games will still be there, but they might not be tied to just Xbox anymore.
Makes you wonder what that means for Microsoft in the long run. If they're not making consoles anymore, what are they?
Yeah. And it's important to note that the memo also hints that PC gaming isn't going anywhere for Microsoft. They'll probably keep supporting Game Pass on PC and keep partnering with Steam and Epic Games, those big PC platforms. So it's really all about that software-first approach. Meet the players where they are on whatever device they're using.
So what happens to the console wars then? Xbox versus PlayStation, that whole thing.
It's a good question. It looks like, if these reports are true, the traditional console market, like the one we've known, could become a two-company race. Sony with PlayStation and a Nintendo with the Switch, those would be the main dedicated game consoles. But the real fight, the real competition, seems to be shifting to these software ecosystems. Who has the best cloud gaming platform? Who has the best subscription service? That's where Microsoft and Apple will be battling it out, it seems.
Yeah, so less about the box under your TV and more about who can deliver the best gaming experience to you wherever you are, on your phone, on your laptop, wherever.
Exactly, and that's kind of what Jason Schreier, the gaming historian, was talking about. He said that this is a move away from the old way of doing things, where it's all about selling hardware. Now it's all about software ecosystems and those services that deliver the games. It's about accessibility and reaching as many players as possible.
Sounds like a whole new world. So if all this is really happening, what's next? What should we be looking out for?
Well, according to our sources, Microsoft has scheduled a press event for next week. They're expected to officially announce their new gaming strategy, give us more concrete details about what this sale means for their future in gaming. That'll be the time to see, how much of what's been reported is actually true.
And what about Apple?
Well, Apple usually does their big announcements at their Worldwide Developers Conference, WWDC.
Sure.
It's later this year, so we're expecting them to, reveal their plans for Xbox or whatever it'll be called under Apple at WWDC 2025. That's where they talk about all their software and developer stuff, so it makes sense they talk about their big gaming plans there.
Okay, so we've got those dates to look forward to.
Yeah, and until then, we're left with these huge questions. Will we actually see Master Chief on a PlayStation? Is Apple going to make a whole new gaming console powered by, what used to be Xbox tech? Will we be playing Game Pass on our iPhones? These are the things the gaming industry and, you as a player will be thinking about in the coming months.
It's pretty crazy to think about. This reported acquisition, it just shows how much the video game industry is changing. Like, everything's in flux. You can't even tell who's a hardware maker and who's a software maker anymore.
Blurring together.
Yeah.
So we've gone pretty deep on this news. We've talked about why Microsoft might be doing this, who this surprising buyer is, and what it could mean for, well, everything in gaming. Especially for you, like what games you'll be playing, how you'll be playing them, all that. And even if it's all just speculation right now, it's interesting to think about what these kinds of shifts could mean for players. Like, will it mean more choices, more ways to play games? That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in. And on that note, and one more thing. Happy April Fool's Day.
Oh, wow.
Gotcha.
You really had me going there.
Had to do it. But, even though this Apple buying Xbox thing might have been a little April Fool's fun, it does make you think, right?
Like, what real changes are coming to the gaming world? What do you think is going to happen in the next few years? And how is going to change the way you play games? It's something to think about, even if this specific headline was just a joke.
Yeah, for sure. It's fun to speculate, but the real future of gaming is, well, it's still out there. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Until next time, keep on gaming.
And keep an eye on those headlines. You never know what might be real and what might be an April Fool's prank.